3 spine-chilling hiking horror stories unveiling sinister secrets. Terrifying encounters revealed. Mia felt a shiver crawl down her spine as she stood at the edge of the woods. Legends of missing hikers and eerie whispers echoed in her mind, a haunting reminder of the danger that lay beyond. The woods were vast and dark, shadows creeping ominously between the ancient trees like fingers reaching for her. "It's just a hike," she whispered to herself, trying to shake off the cold sweat forming on her brow. But deep down, the legends weren't just stories. They were warnings she would soon come to regret ignoring. Each weekend, she found solace among the towering pines, where her mind could escape the weight of her troubled family. Her mom's exhausted voice filtered through shifts at the diner, and her dad's frustrated grimaces at the mechanic shop clung to the air at home. But in the woods, she encountered whispers she thought were mere figments of her imagination. Until one hike, she stumbled across something that left her heart racing. There they were, strange symbols carved into the bark of ancient trees, each twist and turn in the wood seeming to pulse with energy. Chills ran down her back. Mia pressed her palm against the rough texture, a jolt of fear coursing through her as the underbrush rustled like a warning. "Just an animal," she reassured herself. But the feeling of being watched persisted, an unsettling presence lurking just beyond her sight. At home, meals had become battlegrounds. Laura's weary sighs echoed hunger, while Jackson's temper flared like a candle lost in the wind. Mia preferred the quiet misery of the woods, where the only sounds were the chirping crickets, the rustle of leaves, and her racing heart. Yet Mr. Finn, their peculiar neighbor, always seemed to be watching. His unsettling gaze followed her hikes, each encounter twisting the air like smoke rising from a fire. One fateful night, compelled by both curiosity and an urge to defy the darkness, Mia pushed her boundaries deeper into the woods under the glowing eye of the moon. She felt the chill grasp her skin, and adrenaline surged through her veins. Every snap of a twig felt like an announcement, every gust of wind a brush against her neck. And then she saw them, a circle of dark figures, hunched like shadows, their murmurs weaving through the trees like an ancient spell. Mia froze, her breath hitching in her throat, her heart thudding louder than the beating of the drums they seemed to be keeping. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." The air thickened, heavy with dread. Their chants filled her ears, a maddening echo that clawed at the fabric of reality. Mia knew she should turn back, run home to the safety she longed for, but her feet felt glued to the ground. That dark presence seemed to creep closer, tendrils of fear wrapping around her throat. As days rolled by, shadows grew darker at home. Her father's temper snapped like a brittle twig, leaving Mia feeling like a ghost in her own family. And the whispering in the woods? It intensified. It was as if the trees longed to reveal their secrets. A call Mia felt she was destined to answer until she found the note pinned to her door. "Leave the woods alone or lose what you cherish most." The warning battered her thoughts, and a dark reality hovered above her like the growing storm clouds. What awaited her deeper in the woods? Was it truth or terror? She stood at the crossroads, torn between unraveling dark forces and seeking refuge in her family, unsure of which path would lead to salvation or horror. Mia peered into the depths of the forest, the shadows twisting and turning like serpents in the night. The note clutched tightly in her trembling hand felt hot against her palm. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to run, to escape the fear that gripped her heart. But curiosity, that insatiable beast, pulled her backward, deeper into the unknown. "Just go home," she muttered, but the words felt hollow, swallowed by the night. A part of her refused to let go of the mystery, the dark allure of answers lurking just beyond the tree line. She took a deep breath, the crisp air burning her lungs, and stepped forward, the crunched leaves beneath her feet a morbid soundtrack to her descent into dread. As she ventured further, the whispers grew louder, wrapping around her mind like a fog, weaving itself into her thoughts. "What do you want?" she finally called out, her voice echoing against the ancient trunks. It felt stupid, but the desperation built inside her. No response. Just the chorus of rustling leaves and the subtle crackle of the underbrush. The silence felt like a threat, heavy and ominous. Then came the laughter. It was soft at first, childlike and almost innocent, but it twisted into something sinister as it danced through the branches. Her heart raced. She wasn't alone. Tightening her grip on a branch she had picked as a makeshift weapon, she pushed onward, propelled by equal parts fear and defiance. A piercing shriek cut through the air, sending chills spiraling down her spine. Mia stumbled back, her feet scrambling for stability on the tree roots, her breath escaping in sharp gasps. There, illuminated by the pale moonlight, stood a girl. She looked lost, her wide eyes glimmering with unshed tears, framed by tangled hair that seemed to flow like shadows. "Mia," the girl whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "They're coming for you?" Who's coming?" Mia's instincts screamed at her to flee, but that girl's despair rooted her to the spot. "The shadows, they beckon you. You must leave." Panic rushed through the girl's words, and for an instant, Mia saw herself reflected in those frightened eyes, lost and vulnerable. Before she could respond, the echoing laughter returned, louder this time, hinting at the dark figures she had seen the previous night. "They're coming, they're already here," the girl cried, looking over her shoulder as if expecting something to leap from the trees. Mia's mind raced. Could it be the figures from her last hike? Were they here to take her like they had taken others? Heart pounding, she glanced around, scanning the surrounding trees. A flutter of movement caught her eye. Shadows pulsed between the trunks, thickening, gathering an ominous form. "Mia!" The girl screamed as the shadows lunged toward them, tendrils of darkness reaching out like claws, grasping at the air. In a panic, Mia turned to run, feeling the cold fingers of the shadows just inches from her back. "Wait!" the girl cried. "You need to," but another shriek erupted from the darkness, drowning out the girl's voice. Mia sprinted forward, terror propelling her through the underbrush, every brush of foliage behind her sending tremors of fear through her body. As she ran, she could feel the presence closing in, a chilling certainty that something was hunting her. She crashed blindly through the trees, desperate to escape the cauldron of dread boiling just behind her. Then, without warning, she skidded to a halt, breathless, her shoes trapped in the muddy earth. The symbols, the ancient, swirling engravings she had touched days before, loomed before her, glowing faintly in the dim light. It felt as if they were alive, pulsing under her feet in the circle. "Mia, find the truth!" A voice echoed from the shadows, and the girl's silhouette flickered just at the edge of her vision. What was the truth? What was happening? Suddenly, the laughter erupted again, ringing in her ears, a deafening symphony of madness. A darkness burst forth around her, and Mia realized this wasn't just about survival. This was about choices, about what she was willing to sacrifice. Heart racing, she took a step toward the glowing symbols, a sense of fate guiding her as the shadows writhed hungrily behind her. With each move, she could feel the weight of the wood's secrets pressing in, ready to engulf her. And then, the ground trembled beneath her, sending her sprawling. As she looked back, the darkness loomed ever closer, ready to reclaim what it thought belonged to it. What awaited her inside the circle? Was it salvation or doom? As the shadows reached out, caressing her ankles, she found herself standing at another crossroads, truths unraveling before her. Would the woods reveal their dark secrets? Or would she succumb to the lurking terror? Mia's heart hammered in her chest, each thump echoing through the silence of the forest. The glowing symbols beneath her feet pulsated, not just with light but with an energy that seemed to beckon. She could feel the shadows creeping closer, hungry and insatiable. With every breath, the cool night air burned deeper, stinging her lungs like a warning. Find the truth. The words hung in the air, heavy and cumbersome. What truth? And at what cost? The laughter swelled again, wrapping around her like a noose. Desperation clawed at her throat. One glance back showed her a mass of darkness, edges fraying and twisting into shapes she didn't understand. They had a life of their own, a malignancy that made her stomach churn. Without thinking, Mia stepped into the circle. As soon as her foot crossed the threshold, a jolt of energy surged upward, tingling violently through her limbs, almost making her scream. The symbols beneath her flared to a fierce brightness. For a moment the world around her fell away. The shadows stopped. The air became thick with anticipation, as if the woods were holding its breath. Don't look away, she whispered, sensing the girl's presence shrinking further into the darkness. Somehow, she knew that to look back meant to break the spell or perhaps to doom them both. Then visions flooded her mind. Images so vivid they felt real, a faded photograph, a family torn apart, shadows encroaching on a quaint home in the distance. Mia saw herself, as if from the outside, standing in that very circle, surrounded by others. Their faces twisted in fear, desperation merging with the allure of the unknown. They had stepped into the circle, lured by the same promise, the same danger. What is this? Mia's voice trembled, yet it felt grounded, clear. What did you do? But the answer eluded her, just as the girl's silhouette faded, swallowed by the dark. As soon as her figure vanished, the thrilling pulse of the circle dimmed. The shadows began to move again, angry and restless. Mia stumbled backward, nearly losing her footing. The trees around her twisted, their branches reaching toward her, begging her to leave, yet anchoring her further into the heart of this foreboding ritual. The air thickened, almost suffocating her with despair. If she was hopeful for the truth, it was rapidly turning into horror. The circles weren't just a gathering. They were a trap, a place where choices were made, sacrifices demanded. The realization crashed over her, a tidal wave of understanding laced with fear. Suddenly, the laughter erupted, more chaotic than before, surrounding her from all sides. It pierced her ears, a shrill reminder that she wasn't here alone. Was it truly the shadows? Or was something else hidden within their depths? Mia, a voice, distorted and haunting, emerged from the darkness. It was a cacophony, fragmented pieces of warnings she could barely make sense of. Don't believe them. Don't trust what you see. 1,000 questions raced through her mind. Who was warning her? Why were they trapped here? And why was her fate entwined with the labyrinth of shadows? Her heart knew she could stay. She could delve deeper into the circle, embrace the truth. Or she could flee, risk everything known to escape the consuming darkness behind her. Make a choice, Mia, the disembodied voice echoed, sounding oddly familiar. Before she could respond, the shadows surged forward, engulfing the last rays of moonlight piercing through the canopy. She pulled away, panic rising as a swirling mass threatened to consume her. And then, as if summoned from her darkest fears, a face emerged from the shadows, a reflection of herself, eyes wide and lost. You must decide, the apparition screamed, filled with terror and a touch of madness. Mia stood frozen in horror. A choice lay before her, splitting the night like a knife. But would she have the strength to confront her own darkness? Just then, the ground beneath her lurched violently upwards, and the symbols flared back to life, filling the night with blinding light. As she braced for whatever came next, the truth screamed from the shadows, demanding her answer. Was she ready to uncover the deepest, most sinister of secrets? Would she take the plunge? Or would she let the terrifying grasp of the unknown pull her into its abyss? The symbols pulsed violently beneath Mia's feet, flaring with an intensity that set her skin alight. She gazed into the chaos before her, breathless and trembling. The shadows twisted and writhed, greedy tendrils clawing at the edges of her vision, hungry to snatch her soul. Whatever choice lay ahead, she needed to make it now or lose herself completely. Make a choice. The voice resonated again, almost mocking in its urgency. Hot fear raced through her veins. As she stood there, a storm of doubt howled in her mind. Unseen horrors loomed, waiting for her to falter. But she was tired of running. The choice felt gaunt and cruel, yet it also shimmered with a glint of fierce, impossible hope. "Show me," she shouted, the words spilling from her lips like a prayer. "Show me the truth." Instantly, the ground shook again, tremors rippling outward, cascading through the ancient trees. Then, a sudden cascade of images flashed across her mind. A woman weeping, a dark figure lurking, whispers of betrayal curling through the air like smoke. Fistfuls of memories, seemingly unrelated, splintered her consciousness, and Mia gasped, grasping her head as if she could contain the chaos. "Stay focused," shouted the voice again, now sharper, almost demanding. Around her, shadows began to condense, folding inwards, forming distinct figures. Mia blinked, trying to comprehend what she was seeing. Faces emerged, each soaked in despair, eyes wide and glistening with a fear that felt familiar. They looked like reflections of her, rippling through time. "What are you?" The words scrambled from her mouth. The figures melted together. A chorus of sorrow culminated in a hollow echo. "We are you and you are us." Trapped, she staggered back, horror compressing her chest. They weren't just shadows, they were remnants of those who had made the same choice. Each face a name in a dark archive, victims of the binding circles. Her heart twisted at the realization. This wasn't just a revelation. It was an indictment. "Is this my fate?" she whimpered, fear pooling in her stomach like ice. "To become one of you?" One of the figures stepped closer, its features sharpening in the dim light. "Fear is a cage, Mia. You must confront it, break it, or you will forever remain in the dark." The words wrapped around her like barbed wire. The laughter rang in her ears, a maddening choir punctuated by a sinister longing. "Why won't you let me go?" she pleaded. Because came the whisper, hushed and tremulous. "You must understand. There's no escape once you've seen the truth. You are drawn here for a reason." As the shadows circled, she noticed the symbols glowing brighter, swirling around her. They beckoned, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. At that moment, a wave of anger surged within her to think this was how it all ended. "Enough!" she screamed, clenching her fists. "I refuse to be a prisoner." In response, the shadows hissed, recoiling momentarily as if scorched by her defiance. Then the ground shifted violently beneath her, and a void opened where each symbol met. "Embrace what you fear." The chorus rang loud, a thunderous chanting that vibrated through her bones. With no other choice, Mia stepped forward into the portal, holding her breath. The world split around her, shapes tumbling into chaos. And just like that, she was falling downward into darkness, screams trailing behind her like a fading echo. Will she rise from this abyss? What truth awaits her in the depths below? A whirlwind of darkness engulfed Mia, a cold embrace that gnawed at her consciousness. Time lost its meaning as she plummeted. The shadows called to her, their voices echoing in her mind, merging with her own racing heart. They whispered secrets she longed to escape, but it was too late. The truth thrummed through her veins, each throb fueling her dread. She crashed into something solid, a heavy thud vibrating up her spine. The impact knocked the breath from her lungs, and panic clawed at her throat. Gasping, Mia pushed herself up, her vision swimming. What surrounded her felt different, thicker, suffocating. The air was rich with decay, wrapping around her like a fetid shroud. Mia struggled to her feet, blinking into the murky twilight. She was in a cavern, dimly lit by flickering torches lining the damp stone walls. Shadows danced chaotically, their jerky movements making her skin prickle. Stalactites hung overhead like teeth, threatening to drop. Eerie silence cloaked the place, shattered only by the distant drip of water, a reminder of life in this deadened realm. "Where am I?" she whispered, voice shaky. The shadows answered not, but she sensed something lurking nearby, something watching. She turned slowly, heart racing, scanning every crevice. In the corner of her eye, a flicker, a movement too swift for her comprehension. She jerked her head, but nothing was there, only the echoes of her own breath strangling the silence. Fear slithered down her spine, cold and agonizing. Then she heard it, a soft laughter echoing from the farthest depths of the cave. It twisted around her, sweet yet sinister, and it raked against her sanity. "You're one of us now," the laughter taunted, flowing like a sickly stream. "No," Mia shouted, fists clenching at her sides. "I refuse to be trapped." The laughter faded, replaced by a heavy stillness. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. Tall and gaunt, its skin shimmered like silver, reflecting the weak light. Hollow eyes bored into Mia, and an unnerving grin stretched across its face. This wasn't just a shadow. It had substance, and it moved with an unnatural grace. "Do you see?" it whispered, voice a razor's edge. "You cannot fight fate. You came here seeking, and now you've found. What did I find?" Mia challenged, only her voice trembled. "A truth that weighs 1,000 lifetimes." Mia's breath hitched. "What do you want from me?" "I'm here to show you what happens when you face the eternal choices." With a wave of its hand, the cave walls morphed, images coalescing, a parade of lost souls, trapped in agony, twisted faces pleading for freedom. Mia clutched her head, visions spinning with their grief. "Stop!" she screamed. The figure stepped closer, a twisted smile frozen on its features. "You must choose, Mia, to remain with us or to confront your worst fears. But know this. Every choice has a price." Sparks of furious energy crackled between them as she backed away, panic surging anew. The laughter returned, swirling, enveloping her like a storm, battering her resolve. But deep down, an ember flickered. Fear was a cage, but maybe, just maybe, she could turn it into a weapon. Mia took a breath, steadying herself as she glared at the figure. Show me the real truth." It laughed, a sound that echoed in the hollow chamber like a death knell. "What you seek will not come without sacrifice." The cavern trembled, rocks shifting and dust falling. The space around her became alive, pulsing like a heartbeat. What would she choose? And even more haunting, what sacrifice lay ahead? The air thickened, wrapping around Mia like a dull, iron blanket. Shadows flickered and twisted, somehow more menacing now, vibrating with energy that pulsed through the very stone beneath her feet. Something deep inside her screamed to run, but a magnetic force tethered her to the figure glaring at her with wide, hollow eyes. "Are you ready?" it hissed, each word darting through the stale air like a blade. Mia's heart hammered in her chest, building dread with every beat. There was no denying it. She was part of this dark play now. "Sorry, is this something I'm supposed to look forward to?" she shot back, her voice shaky but defiant. The figure remained unfazed, its ghostly grin deepening. "What you fear the most will tear you apart or free you," it whispered, and with that, the cave shifted yet again. Rocks groaned, grinding against one another, and the cavern walls collapsed into bands of color and shadow, forming a grotesque montage of scenes that resonated with her hidden terrors. A small child's laughter echoed, morphing into the chilling cries of despair. Each visual struck a nerve, memories that she had tried so hard to bury flooding back like a relentless tide. Mia stumbled, staggering back against the rock face of the cavern. "No, please, stop," she gasped, straining against the onslaught of emotions and images. Beneath her anguish, a memory manifested, her little brother, lost in a crowd at a festival. The colors whirled around her, fading lights, frightened faces, and the awful realization of loss. She choked back rising bile, the guilt clenching her stomach tight like a vice. "Face it," the figure urged, its voice slithering into her mind. "Embrace your darkest choice." "I don't want to. I can't bear it," Mia shouted, her voice cracking, as raw memories clawed their way to the surface. She felt split, teetering on the edge of her own sanity. In that moment, the laughter returned, this time mingled with cruel taunts. "You'll never escape your fate. You're already trapped." Her surroundings twisted, contorting into forms that leered and jeered. Huge faces with grotesque smiles reached out, their pale fingers stretching towards her. Hesitation gripped her, a paralysis that felt too familiar. She could feel the weight of time itself, the way it compressed her spirit, urging her to either succumb or fight. Summoning every ounce of strength, she pressed her hands to her ears, desperate to block out both the laughter and the haunting memories. "Enough!" she roared. "I choose to fight." The cavern shook violently as the air became electric, charged with rage and defiance. The reflections of her past wavered, the cruel images twisting like smoke, uncatchable but ever-present. Her heartbeat echoed, drowning out the voices, pulling her back from the brink. "Very well," the figure replied, its voice low and dangerous. "But know this, the path you choose may demand more than you're willing to give." It raised its hand again, and suddenly the cave fell silent. Mia felt the presence shift, its weight looming heavily above her. "Prepare yourself. The true test lies ahead, and the choice will not be yours alone." Dark whispers flitted through the air, and Mia's resolve began to waver. She had fought valiantly, but heavy dread draped over her like a funeral shroud. What awaited her in this uncharted terror? Just then, a low rumble echoed through the cave, and Mia's heart seized in fear as fragments of the ground beneath her began to fracture. Shadows swirled violently, and a new sound emerged, a whisper that felt like icy fingers tracing her spine. "Mia," it breathed, each syllable slithering through the air. "You have not faced the worst of it yet." As darkness surged around her, a single thought screamed in her mind. Would she have the strength to confront what was coming? Or would this shadow consume her once and for all? A deafening roar shook the cavern, and the ground trembled beneath Mia's feet. Cracks spiderwebbed toward her, devouring the floor like hungry mouths. Frigid air burst forth from the fissures, swirling and biting at her skin, threatening to pull her down into the abyss. She stumbled backward, heart racing, breath scrambled, the whisper amplifying in her ears. "Mia," the voice was both sweet and menacing. "Do you remember how it felt to lose? To betray?" She forced herself to look ahead, where the figure loomed, slightly shifting in the shadows. It watched her, waiting, calculating. "I won't give in," she yelled, but doubt gnawed at her. Could she resist? With every second that passed, the darkness grew thicker, crawling up her legs, spiraling around her waist. "What do you want from me?" she cried out, panic coursing through her veins. "Everything." Mia's breath hitched. The word echoed in her mind, a chilling promise. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from a nearby crevice, chilling her down to the bone. She jumped, the sound hunting her fears. It was a voice she recognized but didn't want to. "Mia, help me." Her brother's voice. "No," she screamed, breaking free of her torment and sprinting towards the sound, each step feeling heavier than the last. The shadows lashed out, attempting to entangle her in their garnished grasp, but she pushed through, determined to reach him. "Mia." The calling grew closer, desperate. "Where are you?" "I'm here. I'm coming." As she took another step, the ground gave way beneath her, crumbling down into darkness. She fell, plunging into cold blackness, the scream from above dying away into silence. Then everything went quiet. The dark enveloped her like a wet blanket, squeezing. She landed on something soft, a jarring contrast to the hard stone above. Gingerly, she pushed herself up. The familiar stench of decay flooded her senses. "Where are you?" she called out, her voice hollow and strained. Desperation clawed at her throat. As she stood, something scratched at the fleshy soil beneath her feet. She looked down, horrified, to find skeletal remains, tiny bones littering the ground like forgotten secrets. Panic rose again, the truth settling heavily. "They are all trapped here," the sinister whisper murmured from the shadows. "Like you." Mia staggered back, heart racing as she fumbled to find a way out. But then something shifted, and she felt it, cold fingers dragging along her arm, pulling her closer to the ground. She spun around, searching for the source, but the darkness clung to her, taking shape. "Mia," the voice wrapped around her like smoke. "You think you can fight fate? These souls, they will share your burden. They will become part of you." The air turned electric with dread, and Mia sensed the anger of the lost souls in this dark chamber, their heavy despair twisting around her. The vision of her brother materialized through the shadows, his eyes wide with terror. "You left me, no. I tried to find you," she shouted, her voice breaking. "But you didn't," he whispered, each word heavy with blame. Shadows danced, moving closer, a swirling maelstrom of trapped souls, their cries echoing in her ears, filling her space with despair. "I need you to confront this or you will remain here forever." The figure hissed, its features stretching into a grotesque mask of horror. Mia realized then that every soul wrapped in despair was a reflection of her greatest fears, and the only way to break this cycle was to face them. But could she summon the courage to do so? As she drew a breath, a sudden rumble sent shockwaves through the cavern, and with every ounce of strength, she stood tall against the tide of darkness. "Leave me," she shouted, forcing her way through chaos. "I choose to fight for them. I won't abandon anyone again." Yet as the shadows screamed and the cavern trembled, she could hear her brother's voice again softening into an echo of despair as the darkness began to swallow her whole once more. "Help me." Mia, would the remnants of her guilt crush her beneath the weight of their agony? Would she stand and fight against the demons of her past? Or would she be lost in the shadows forever? The ground split again, and as she fell again, the last thought drowned in darkness was one shattering realization. This is only the beginning. As she hurtled through the darkness, Mia lost all sense of direction. The void enveloped her, an infinite expanse of dread. But she thudded against something solid, a sharp jolt tearing through her body, forcing her to gasp for breath. Light flickered like a dying flame, illuminating her surroundings. She was sprawled across a dirt floor, and jagged rocks loomed overhead like serrated teeth. The atmosphere was heavy, pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. Shadows danced along the walls, twisting and writhing, taunting her with whispers. "Mia," their voice echoed, a cruel symphony of her name. "You fear the dark, yet here you stand, desperate for light. No more games," she shouted, rising unsteadily to her feet. The shadows recoiled, then surged forward, a wave of darkness engulfing her. Panic swirled within her, but a surge of defiance sparked in her heart. They wouldn't break her. Not now. Not ever. She took a step forward, ready to confront the swirling chaos around her. "Show yourselves." Her voice cracked like thunder in the cavern, defiance laced with determination. Then, the figures emerged, grotesque forms emerging from the shadows, each more horrifying than the last. Twisted faces stared back at her, empty sockets filled with a familiar sorrow. She recognized them, lost souls, forever trapped in the dark. "Mia," they croaked in unison, voices layered with anguish. "Will you join us? Will you let us inside?" The sickening realization gripped her. Their faces were reflections of her own fears, her betrayals, her failures. Each face was a mirage of guilt, the echo of every time she had been too weak to help those who needed her. Mia took a step back, shaking her head. "No, I won't let you take me. I won't repeat the mistakes of the past." The ground beneath her quaked violently, rocks crashing down around her. The shadows writhed, reaching towards her with cold, gnarled fingers. "You can't escape your past. It's part of you." But Mia focused on the flicker of light ahead, a doorway shimmering in the thick gloom. Heart racing, she sprinted toward it, dodging the grasping hands that tried to pull her back. She could feel their desperation, their anger, but above all, she felt their pain and it mirrored her own. "Help us. You cannot leave." The cries reverberated through the cavern, raw and pleading. "No, I have to save myself first." With every ounce of her will, she burst through the threshold, stumbling into an adjoining chamber. It was bright here, almost blinding after the suffocating darkness. But as she took a moment to breathe, the brightness faded again, replaced by cold stone beneath her feet. In front of her stood a spectral figure, pale and haunting. It resembled a younger version of her brother, eyes wide with fear, shimmering like shards of glass. "Mia," he whispered, voice trembling. "You have to remember." We were always meant to face this together. Her heart sank. I thought I lost you. I thought I could never save you. No. You must confront what you fear or be trapped forever. As the chamber began to swirl with shadows again, she understood. This wasn't just a fight for her own salvation but for all the souls lost. She had to face her guilt, her memories, her terror, and most importantly, she had to forgive herself. Together, she whispered, closing her eyes, drawing strength from the shattered pieces of her heart. I can do this. Mia opened her eyes, and the world exploded into color as she willed the light to rise. The shadows shrieked in protest, but their cries were drowned out by a chorus of empowerment and purpose. But even as she summoned the light, a chill swept through her, freezing her in place. The whispers changed, deepening into something sinister, something primal. Are you sure you can handle it? The voice hissed. Would she awaken something far worse in pursuit of salvation? In that moment of choice, her breath caught. The darkness hovered at the edge of her consciousness, ready to swallow her whole once more. Lingering like a storm waiting for a break in the clouds, what could she awaken if she dared to defy her demons? Would the unleashed shadows consume her will? Would she be lost again? Mia inhaled sharply, the cold air stinging her lungs. The specter of her brother lingered, an unsettling mix of comfort and dread. Shadows encroached, whispering promises of despair, flickers of both hope and terror flickering in her mind. Do it, Mia. Embrace the truth. But the truth felt heavy, like a stone tied to her heart. Would she really dare to dig deeper, exposing wounds she buried for so long? As she summoned the light around her, she focused, recalling the warmth of shared laughter and the innocence of childhood before everything fell apart. Yet, the light wavered, a dance with the darkness that pulled at her. You think you know the light? A voice like shattering glass taunted. Do you remember what happened? Can you survive the truth? Images flashed before her, visions of joy twisted into nightmares. There was a darkened room, the acrid smell of smoke lingering as laughter turned to screams. Mia's hands shook violently as she fought to stay grounded. No, that was just a tragedy. It doesn't define me. Doesn't it? The shadows coiled tighter, panic clawing at her throat. The figure of her brother shimmered, transforming into a grotesque mockery. His eyes hollow and accusing. You ran from your fears, Mia. You left me behind. Stop. She pressed her palms to her ears, wishing the whispers away. But the noise intensified, the shadows swirling like a tempest. The brightness dimmed, and with each passing moment, Mia felt the weight of the darkness inch closer. I won't let you claim me. Mia opened her eyes wider, spreading her arms. She could feel the light igniting within her like a wildfire. If I'm going to face this, I'll do it on my terms. The shadows shrieked in frustration, recoiling from her burgeoning flame. Yet, something shifted again. From the corner of her eye, a new figure materialized, wrapped in a shroud of fear. It had to be her childhood friend, someone she'd known long ago, a life cut short in tragic circumstances. The memory washed over her like ice. You never looked back, Mia. It croaked, voice drenched in sadness. You abandoned us both. No, she bellowed. The pain of guilt surged through her, entangling in her heart. I was just a kid. I didn't know how to help. I can't be responsible for everything. But the shadows licked at her heels, wrapping around her ankles, clutching her down. You still don't see, do you? They hissed. You have the power to change the past, but at what cost? Mia's heart raced, the familiar drift to despair nearly swallowing her whole. She trembled but stood firm against the chaos. Then, in that moment of desperation, her mind constructed an impossible choice. Did she want to forge ahead, possibly repeating her failures, or step backward into an abyss that felt just as terrifying? The shadows lurked, waiting, breathing in the silence. The air became electric, charged with her trepidation. A sudden silence enveloped her, darkness clutching at her throat, suffocating her in this unnerving stillness. What lay beyond this threshold? Would facing the truth bring torment or liberation? Fine, she yelled, dread and resolve mingling in her veins. I'll face it and own my truth, all of it. The chamber crackled, and as she felt the light pulsate stronger, she could taste the dark memories vying for dominance, while fear tried to paralyze her. Would the act of confronting unlatched chains of despair or unleash horrors she could never imagine? The shadows shifted nervously, sensing a disturbance. Mia's breath quickened as she prepared to dive into the abyss, teetering on the edge of a fate she may not escape as realization dawned. She whispered to the shadows, "I'm not afraid of you any longer." But was that true? The darkness seemed to pulse, eager to respond to the challenge. What awaited Mia as she dove deeper, her heart pounding with uncertainty? Would the confrontation be her redemption or her undoing? Wind howled through the cavernous mouth like a wailing banshee, the air crackling with the tension of unresolved fears. Mia stood poised at the precipice of darkness, the shadows shifting restlessly, eager to embrace her. This was it. This moment teetered on the edge of destiny, a crossroad between facing her past or becoming another lost soul entwined in the whispers of despair. "I've heard your taunts," she shouted, her voice slicing through the menacing atmosphere. "You think you can devour me? No, you will not take me down." The shadows recoiled, surprised by the fervor behind her declaration. But each succumbing heartbeat bombarded her with memories, regrets that raked against her heart like claws. The faces of her brother, her friend, all vigilantes of the agony she had endured floated before her, haunting and alluring. "Leave me be," she pleaded, yet the fissures of guilt pulsed like a vibrant heartbeat. Mia felt the air grow heavier. Whispers morphed into wails, each cry rending her resolve. "You are responsible, Mia. You left us." Their voices intertwined, a symphony of agony that echoed her deepest fears. "No," she shook her head fiercely, eyes bright with defiance. "I can't change the past, but I can change what it means for me." As if responding to her conviction, the shadows lunged, seeking to envelop her in their suffocating grasp. In a surge of strength, she stepped forward, letting the past wash over her like a wave rather than a drowning force. She felt the heat of her courage expand, the light inside her igniting like an inferno. "You're wrong," she cried, her voice gaining volume. "You are not the sum of your past. I will face my guilt, but I won't let it own me." The cavern trembled at her confession, the shadows seeming to pause, murmurs of doubt weaving through their ranks. Then, in a rush, the air thickened, and she found herself absorbed in a kaleidoscope of memories. A childhood friend's laughter morphed into blood-curdling screams, a familial bond twisted by abandonment, the chain of regret a heavy chain around her. But, amid the chaos, she felt something stir, an ember of clarity. "I can choose love over fear." With every ounce of her being, she focused on the light she had summoned and yelled it into the darkness. "You will not control me anymore. I choose to make peace with my past." The shadows shrieked, a dissonant choir oscillating between fear and fury. Yet Mia pressed on, weaving through the confusion, reaching out in warmth to the enveloped spirits surrounding her. "I forgive you," she exclaimed, tears streaming down her face. "And I forgive myself. We can heal together." In that moment, the shadows faltered, disarmed by her declaration. Colors swirled, illuminating lost souls that had trapped themselves in the threads of her regrets. Hearts once brittle began to soften, the shadows transforming into glimmers of light. Faces she recognized drifted toward her brother, her childhood friend, smiles flickering through the darkness like fireflies dancing in the night. Together, she breathed, brimming with hope. "Let us move toward the light." The shadows wound their way together, fragmenting like ink dispersing in water. They flickered around her, filling the voids with compassion and understanding. The echoes of laughter rang out, intertwining with the whispers of acceptance, an ethereal embrace pulling Mia closer to her lost loved ones. The air exploded with brilliance as the shadows dissolved, darkness retreating like a bad memory. Mia's heart soared, the weight of despair lifting, revealing a path shimmering before her. Stepping through the light, she felt whole for the first time, the burdens falling away like petals from a wilting flower. In an instant, The cavern opened into a grand expanse, lush greenery spilling into the light where once shadows thrived, a world reborn. Mia's breath caught as she stepped forward, adrenaline surging through her veins. She was home, yet different, stronger. "You did it," a familiar voice rang out. She turned, her brother standing there, vibrant and alive. "You faced it, all of it. We're free." With tears streaming down her cheeks, Mia couldn't help but smile. We're finally free. The journey had led her here not to escape, but to embrace, to transform fear into strength. As the light enveloped them, Mia knew her story didn't end. It simply began anew. With newfound purpose, she grasped her brother's hand. Together, they stepped forward into the dawn of endless possibilities. Now listen up. You need to subscribe immediately to this channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, because every click matters. Flood the comments section with your thoughts about this wild ending. What do you think happened to Mia next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Only true fans know how crucial your support is for us to keep bringing you thrilling content. Let us keep the magic alive.